Okay. Fingers crossed that's actually going through. So welcome. I'm gonna also go ahead and share my screen and kind of throw up the agenda. Oh. Can everybody see that? Thumbs up. Decently thumbs up. Yeah, so welcome to our first Street School Administrators Roundtable. Like I said before, this obviously is not the season or spring that any of us thought that we were going to be having. And I always joke with the administrators around Denver that I very rarely feel like I know what I'm doing. Maybe the longer I do this, the less I understand how to do our job. But this spring, that obviously took a giant pivot. So I just wanted to open up a forum and kind of give everybody an opportunity to talk through some of the successes that you've seen in your schools throughout COVID-19, some struggles, if you guys have any best practices or resources that you found. And then also at some point kind of talk through like what you're thinking for your schools for the fall. It's really easy to develop an island mentality, I think, in street schools because the vast majority of education is not done the way that we do education. But that's not true. Like all of the street schools are here for a common reason for our students. But maybe before we kind of jump into all of that, see if I can make this a little bit bigger so that I can see all of you at once. Just wanted to kind of open it up to introductions. So I'm Casey. Most of you got the letter saying that I'm taking over for Tom Tillepaugh here at Street School Network. And this is the end of my 13th year with Street Schools. I went from being a senior at the Denver Street School to the nursery worker at the Denver Street School, the secretary, the electives teacher, the whatever I could teach to be around my kids teacher, and then became the principal 3 years ago and am actually moving to Alaska next month, but wanted to keep involved with the Street School mission and had kind of a unique opportunity to do that, unfortunately, with Tom's passing. So I know that it's kind of organized chaos when opening things up to introductions on Zoom, but if you guys just want to kind of unmute yourselves and maybe introduce yourselves.
I'll jump in. Mike Foster, Executive Director with the Winston-Salem Street School. I've been here almost 2 years now. I took David Morgan's place. He was our previous director and founder, and also have a couple of my cohorts with me. I'll let them introduce themselves as well, but welcome Casey officially, and I think this is a great idea to get everyone together, and hopefully it's something we can do more in the future.
Hey Casey, could you take your agenda off so we can see people better?
Yes, absolutely. I think I can. Stop screen sharing. Okay, can you see each other now?
Perfect.
Great. Barb, while you're unmuted, do you want to go for it?
Sure. Barb Bultice, Executive Director and Founder at Crossroads School in Longmont, Colorado. So we have had the luxury of having a little more contact with Denver Street School than most of you. We just celebrated 10 years, and yeah, welcome Casey. Glad to have you in this new role. And it's been great working with you over the years.
I'll jump in since I'm after Mike. I'm Megan Lawson, and I'm the development coordinator at the Winston-Salem Street School. And I have been here just over a year in that role. Prior, I'd been a volunteer and a board member, and stepped in last May to fill the role of development coordinator. And so I'm looking forward to a post-pandemic fundraising year when we are all scrambling for the same dollar.
I'll go next, since same team. Nick Wright, principal, Winston-Salem Street School. Going into my 14th year, finishing up my 13th, so been around for a little bit. Started off as a part-time teacher, kind of same thing as Casey, taught pretty much every subject except for science. And eventually grew into the principal position about 4 years ago, I think, 3 or 4, something like that. And just love the mission of the street school and excited to be able to connect outside of our team with the others. And so we're glad to be here.
Basketball coach too, or no?
Oh yeah. We started our first basketball team this year, which was pretty cool. And we were featured on the front page of the local paper the 2 weeks before this whole thing happened. We were 0-2 on the front page of the paper. So if you got, I'll share that link. It's a really cool story. We just kind of put it together organically. We had a guest speaker who came in, was in a wheelchair, had a heart for basketball, and was like, I see boys outside shooting basketball. Let's do a team. And I said, okay. We started practicing 2 days a week, and I ended up getting 2 games scheduled. We got our butts kicked, but we still had a lot of success.
I'll go next. So I'm Casey's counterpart. She's the principal of the East Campus. I'm the principal of the West Campus. This is my 4th year at DSS. Started out teaching math. Became vice principal, now principal. I also coach our basketball team. We've won 3 or 4 games in the 3 years I've been coaching. We've lost 30 or 40 games. But I really enjoy the sports aspect. They have to be academically eligible to play on a basketball team. So it keeps them, they can't skip class or skip school. So it keeps them showing up every day. So I really enjoy it.
I'm Chris Fuller, some title at the Denver Street School. This is end of my 8th year, same as most of you taught. Tom made me superintendent of the 3 campuses here 2 years ago. I'm now probably the executive director, but in our last board meeting that wasn't an important thing to talk about. And so still probably the acting executive director. So good to see everybody.
Let's see, it looks like we have people from Philly. Okay, Kevin, do you want to go?
Hi. Yeah, I couldn't work the unmute button. That's how technically savvy I am. I'm Kevin Dean, and my boys are doing PE with Joe, and I have some work going on my porch. So it's as quiet as it's going to get right now. But I've been at Hunting Park Christian Academy in Philly since '02, principal for 12 years. And my first introduction as a principal, first official event was going to the Street School Network Conference in 2008. And it was you just felt the like-mindedness, and it's just so different compared to other organizations that we used to belong to. So it's a blessing to be a part of it still.
Hey everybody, my name is Libby, and I have never been to any Street School Network things, although I've been kind of inherited this affiliation because I became a head of school at Churchill Academy in Richmond 2.5 years ago. And I was, I thought, a career history teacher in public high school up until that moment. And Gina, if you ever had the pleasure of meeting Gina Mayo, she was my predecessor and was going through chemotherapy when I took on the role. And so I never really, we never really got to do like that formal baton toss. But hey, like perfect start to being a head of school, right? Who needs formality really? So I'm here in Seattle. I'm here in Richmond, but I grew up in Seattle, and a former principal of the little school I went to the Seattle Street School. And I remember that growing up, like, oh, that's a good spot. I like what they're about. And then I grew up in Denver. So I still have cousins in Aurora, and it's really fun to just be with you guys again. And I feel like, oh, you're my crew. So thank you for welcoming us, Casey. I am really excited about your leadership, looking forward to getting to know you better. And yeah, Churchill Academy, like, I guess Tom met the founder of the nonprofit that we're a part of like over 10 years ago, and it'll be good to get to know you all better.
Really. We're excited to have you. see, I think Christy, Sharon, and Tim, sorry. Oh gosh, can't read. And Maya, I haven't.
Hi. I guess I'll go ahead and go next. I'm finally not driving now. My name is Maya McLean, and I am the principal of Faith Walk Academy in Paris, Missouri. And I believe we are the only rural street school. I've been a part of street school, I guess, well, this is my 18th year at Faith Walk Academy. I think it's maybe our 10th year with street school. And so really have watched it, been along as it's grown and shifted. I got to know Tom so well. I'm so sad to hear he's not around, but I'm excited for Casey. I've had the opportunity to meet you several times.
Oh no. Maya freeze for anybody else? Shoot. Maya, if you can hear us, we'll maybe come back to you in a second.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I guess I'll go while we're waiting on Maya to come back to us. My name is Tim Cox. I'm the executive director at Brinkley Heights Urban Academy in Memphis. I have been here for forever. This is actually in this ministry here for about 30 years. The school started back in 2004. Actually, we started working on the school with Tom and his team probably in 2002, sometime around there. Took us a couple of years to get going, and finally Tom said, well, we're waiting on. And so, I said, well, just funding. He says, well, you'll never get started if you're waiting on funding. If God said do it, just do it. So that's what happened. That's how, y'all know Tom, right? And so here we are now in 2020, and somehow we're still waiting on funding, but we but we have an amazing school, amazing kids, and I have an amazing staff. I have them gathered around me here. They don't want to be on camera, so I'll just show you where there's Casey. She's my administrative assistant. Jessica ran out of the room. So, but anyway, surrounded by amazing people. There. What was that? What was that, Jess? They need to see you. There she is. There she is. So, and then we've got a summer team of staff that are actually arriving right now. So there's a lot of noise in the background. We have 15 college students that are arriving to work summer ministries, which is kind of crazy in the midst of COVID-19. We don't know how that's going to happen, but anyway, so we're real organized around here. Great to see everybody. Glad that you're here, Casey. We're so excited about having you in your new role, and just thinking the Lord's going to do amazing things going forward. So thanks a lot. Nice to see everybody.
See ya.
I'll share. I'm Sharon Okamoto, and I'm over in Seattle Urban Academy, formerly Seattle Street School. So interested to hear what the connection is with Libby. I've been at the school, this is my 23rd year, and the school has been around for 31 years. I believe when Tom came to visit Seattle, the story I was told was that he and the person who was heading up the Seattle Street School at the time met up for lunch, and they said we should form an association. So I think that's from the very early days. So I'm just going to give a little update about where we are as a school. We're a high school. We've had great success, giving that foundation to youth and having them go on to higher ed and follow God's calling for their lives. We are part of a larger umbrella organization. We're only about 1% to 2% of the whole organization. The organization has faced extreme budget shortfalls. And 6 weeks ago, no, less than that, 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, they told me they're going to cease operations of our school. So as of,
Oh, no.
yeah, they just told me. So next month, there will be no Seattle Urban Academy. So we are trying to talk to people, but who's going to pick up a $1.5 million program in a month's time? So I'm kind of wondering, okay, well, what does Street School Network have in terms of assisting for a transition? So.
Sure. Yeah. I think that's a really good question that we can all kind of put our heads together and brainstorm. Thank you for sharing, Sharon. I'm so sorry. That's so hard.
Yeah.
Christy, are you able to jump on, introduce yourself?
Yes, I was thinking Maya, did you want to finish first since you got cut off?
Oh yeah, she's back.
It looks like you're driving. Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm parked, thankfully, but my Wi-Fi is trying to connect and disconnect. I don't know what all you had heard, but this is my 18th year at Pip-Up Academy, and we've been a member of Street School for over 10 years. We are located in rural Missouri, very small community. But Tom was, worked with me quite a bit, helped us to get our school accredited. And just recently I'll be taking on the role of superintendent this coming school year. So some new roles for me as well. And just really have appreciated what Street School Network does and what it's offered to our staff. I brought them to the last conference and they really enjoyed it. So we're looking forward to the next one. We're sad that Tom is not with us and that we didn't get to have one this year, but I am certainly looking forward to what Casey is going to bring to the table, and I'm willing to help in any way possible.
Thank you, Maya.
My name is Christy, and I am the executive director of Cornerstone Crossroads Academy in Dallas, Texas. And just remember meeting several of you guys at a conference. I think it might have been the conference before last, but I know that Chris and Kevin were both on my just daily prayer list for several years. So it's good to see your faces and see that you're still in the game and or in the fight. People are heavy-hearted today for just what's going on in our country, and it's kind of hard to just function as normal. But I've been on calls since 6 o'clock this morning, so tears have been flowing freely all day and prayers just everywhere. But when I went to the Street Schools conference, I just remember going from feeling so alone and weird and I don't even know for sure if we're doing the right thing, because I had been in the public schools for 15 years with all the state guidelines and the curriculum and charts and almost formulas to follow, and then going to almost complete freedom, but also not knowing for sure if we were doing things right. And then just hearing from other people that other people were using some of the same designs that we thought we just came up with, but other people had too, and it was affirming and connecting. And so even though I haven't been as connected as I wish I could, it's just been so comforting to know that somewhere around the country today there are other people living with similar challenges and facing similar decisions, and that God is at work in each of our lives. And just being at that conference felt a little bit like what I imagine heaven's going to be like when we get together and share stories of God's faithfulness and just find out these parallel walks that we were on and how he was just all in it and through it. And I just echo what everyone else says, thank you so much for stepping into that role. I'm sure it's daunting because Tom was just such a force of nature. But thank you for being willing to step into that and just helping us stay connected.
Of course. Yeah, thank you guys. I can't say it enough. I know what you guys are going through on some level, and it's really daunting. But I thought in light of how heavy everything is kind of starting off, if you guys want to unmute yourselves at all and say like, this is against all odds, like a really cool success, whether it's fundraising, whether it's academics, whether it's a resource that you found and you kind of want to jump around agenda wise, like what are you guys seeing that you've been so encouraged by in your schools or in your cities?
I'll jump first, not because I did anything, because Casey and Jonas did all the work. So let's see, Maya, you're going to be a superintendent. So yeah, you're going to do the work, but other people are going to do the work. But I think the success was right when it all went down, I reached out to Barb, right? Like just knowing that there was someone else in the area. Yeah, you guys do school differently than we do, but you have the same type of students, the same heart, the same, right, staff, funding limitations. And so, I mean, I think the success on my end and why I'm excited to sit here with you guys is that early on, we were able to just reach out and pick each other's brains and what are you doing? Here's what we're doing. Right. Hopefully everything we did was successful, but I'll save that for Casey and Jonas. But I think the success was just not having to walk every bit of this alone.
I'll second that for sure.
I'll jump in here at Winston-Salem Street School. Obviously, there was no roadmap to hear a often used term these days to kind of know what to do. But our staff, small staff, but really blessed with a great crew that just said, okay, let's get together. Even in those early days, we got together in our largest room safely before social distancing was kind of the term, and kind of laid out a plan. And Nick and I talked a lot. We knew that we needed to kind of get this distance learning thing up and going, which was completely new for us. And we did not have the tools necessary to do it. Long story short, myself, Nick, Megan, our whole team, our board of directors kind of put the word out. Started really through social media and kind of word of mouth that we needed Chromebooks in a bad sort of way to kind of get this up and rolling. And within about 2 weeks, we had enough Chromebooks to outfit all of our students. And at that time, we were looking at trying to get around 40 students up and rolling. And we took our time with it. Nick really did a great job in laying out what this new online curriculum would look like. And we picked up and are now, I guess, 2 weeks from wrapping up this last quarter. And really looking back 2 months ago, our goal was just to try to find some way for our upcoming graduates to be able to finish, not necessarily the entire student body. And so we learned a lot about ourselves, that we could do things differently, and to say it's out of the box is, that's an understatement. But Nick and Megan were a huge part of that. So yeah, we all kind of learned to do something a little different. And I think probably all of us will take some of these lessons, not necessarily lessons, but just new paths that we've learned. We'll take it forward and maybe be able to utilize some of this information moving forward too. So.
For sure. I'm not up to date on what all the different states' regulations and everything are. Like, show of hands, is everybody doing remote access, remote learning right now? Is that okay? Okay, so Maya's not. Kind of.
Yeah, ours is a little different. The street school model where we have the 10-to-1 student teacher ratio for what Missouri required with the no more than groups of 10. We were able to still stay open when all the schools in the state had to close, and we just had to restructure so that we kept our groups of 10 isolated. We didn't intermix between the groups. We did offer the remote learning because we already offer live streaming through our school anyway. So we just were able to add families in that wanted to stay home or have their children stay with them. And so we were able to kind of just add them in on that and expand that a little bit more. But overall, I mean, it was certainly new. We had to Zoom between classrooms because you couldn't have, one teacher teach this group and then teach the other group. So Yeah, very different, but not fully remote, but we certainly did utilize some of those remote features.
Oh, that's interesting. Do you record all of your lessons every single day? Because we're probably gonna have to go to some kind of hybrid like that in the fall.
Yeah.
Is there like a digital camera in each classroom that's recording the teachers, or how are you recording the lessons for the kids that have to be at home?
You asking Maya?
Was that
Yeah.
question for me?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. We do record some of our lessons, and so like I already do that. I have to like multiply myself in some ways, and so I can't teach the same subject at the same time. So I already had recordings of myself teaching classes and had a file of those. But actually like live streaming, like teaching live and then having it recorded in case someone was, wasn't able to make it, and making it available for them that way. But certainly pre-recording is always helpful because it just allows you to, step away and instead of being the active teacher and then go back later. It's kind of like the flipped classroom model in a way, if that makes sense.
What platform do you guys use, Maya, for that? Has it been exclusively Zoom or?
We started off with Google Hangouts years ago. But once we were introduced to Zoom, it worked way better. So we switched over to that probably about 3 or 4 years ago for our live streaming. And that allows us to, being a rural district, we have to be able to pull students. And so that's another way for us to generate students from other areas, is to be able to offer a live stream. But as far as like our pre-recorded videos, I record and then I have like a YouTube channel. Then I kind of post them on YouTube, but it's a private and just private links. And then I upload those links into, what platform is that? I want to say it's like the EDU 20 platform for, I guess like a learning system, LMS system type thing. And then I can put lessons in there and then have the video linked to the YouTube. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah,
You're such an innovator. You were using Zoom before all of us were.
Yeah, I'm thinking like a 45-minute workshop with Maya might be really, really helpful, just to kind of think through the logistics instead of, or just to learn from what you guys have done, because we've been trying a version of that, but like just running out of space in Dropbox or different things by, our current methods. So I would love to, if there's a parking lot for future meeting topics, I would love for that to be one.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to like jump ahead to announcement-y things, but we are currently revamping our website for Street School Network, and I'm hoping that for all the member schools this fall to get you guys login information. And then you're going to be able to get into the back end of our website, and there will be a portal where like we can, like this Zoom meeting will be like recorded and put there. Like if Maya or whoever wants to do some kind of professional development for us, then we can like Zoom it, record it, put it there, and then you guys can access it for your staffs later on. And I'll also just be uploading, like these books have been really helpful, these podcasts. So yeah, but that would be amazing. I know right now we're probably all just trying to survive wrapping up school years, but this summer, if we want to kind of plan some of that stuff, I would absolutely be game to help facilitate that.
I was going to comment, Mike had said they were using social media and they got a bunch of Chromebooks donated. I don't know who runs your guys' social media page, but I follow it and it's really good. I'm always telling Casey and Chris, I'm like, oh, look at what Winston-Salem's doing. Like, we should post stuff like that. Because you guys were doing like daily content when this first started. And I thought that was super good because I help out with the donor relations a little bit. But just seeing what people are doing when we can't physically give people tours, I thought you guys did a really good job at that. So that could even be a workshop too, maybe from a more development fundraising standpoint, just like how do you use social media to help with that?
I'll pass that on to Mike because I think he has stepped away from his desk. It's Wednesday afternoon, and on Wednesday afternoon we have food deliveries for our children, our students. They come by and pick up bag food items that are donated through the community, and Mike puts bags together for them. And also we have a local restaurant that has been providing us with frozen meals. And we just got a grant to upfit our kitchen, and it's now complete. So we've got some really nice freezer space, and so the students are coming in right now. So that's where Mike is, but Mike does all of our social media posting. I help a little bit with Constant Contact, but he really has brought that as a real gift for the school since he joined us 2 years ago, and it's made a huge difference. It's really helped with our visibility and our name recognition in the community, and people know us a lot better now than they did 2 years ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's all Mike. He runs our page, and that's been a huge addition because we were already, he was posting daily things, and I'm the principal, so I'm over the day-to-day stuff and pulling in. We do poetry workshops every Friday, and that's kind of, I would love to do some workshops on some of those things, because with what I do, I'm all in day-to-day interaction with the students and pulling in other types of creative people to come in. And, I kind of shifted away from, let's have a guest speaker, for chapel every week. I'm like, well, let's have just guest people all the time, And so that's kind of like a trailer for that. But then Mike comes in as the fly on the wall, and just, I'm like, oh, we posted that already, And so it's been really helpful to get our brand out there and just have that, just to be in front of the community, because beforehand, I don't know if we would have had the level of awareness going through something like this a few years ago. So the fact that that was already consistent and it already built a lot of those relationships with other local restaurants and creative people, schools and camps in summer. And it was really, I was blown away within a week or two, because he kind of sold it short a little bit when what he said, we had 40 Chromebooks. I was just like, oh crap, what are we gonna do? We're not equipped for this. We don't have the resources. Well, let's at least make sure our seniors are still on track to finish. And so we put word out, hey, we need Chromebooks. I put word out to people, personal friends, and just was just kind of seeing what happened. And then money and Chromebooks came in, and I was like, oh, we have enough resources to actually do something for the whole school, and we didn't have it figured out. But then at that point, it was like a boost to okay, let's do this. But I've been on the other hand where that didn't happen too. And it's just you're overwhelmed, and we can't do anything if we don't have the resources, and our teachers aren't equipped to do this. And I know we're transitioning in a second for some successes, but it's been a roller coaster, and even the fact that every student had access to a Chromebook, maybe 25 at most have been able to make this work the way that we intended, and it's getting lower by the day. Right. And so shout out to Mike, appreciate that. And it goes back to the importance of social media, because that's free. If we got someone who was just posting every day and branding, different things that we're doing. And I would love, getting off this, I would love to follow everybody and connect somehow in some type of way, or everybody's name down and stuff like that. I'm on all social media platforms, and the Street School is too. So I think going through that, there could be a way, hearing, it's heartbreaking hearing what's going on in Seattle, because I've followed Seattle Street School for a long time. I got a mutual friend who's from Seattle who worked for us, Martin Lawson, and I think he's back in Seattle. And maybe when I'm talking about us on a local level, maybe there's more opportunity to connect on a national level as an organization.
Yeah, as far as social media goes, I've tried to revamp Street School Network social media a little bit. If you follow Street School Network on Instagram, I have tried to kind of stalk all of you and pull your schools into our stories. So you can go through, there's one that says our member schools, and you can follow everybody else and kind of keep up to date with what's going on. So, yeah, I was going to ask Kevin, I think he might have had to step away for a second, but I know they at Hunting Park Christian Academy have been doing a lot with Facebook Live as far as reading books to their kids. I don't know what other platforms you guys have found successful, if we want to kind of keep talking down that rabbit hole for a second.
We've been using Microsoft Teams for classroom, and that has been a good tool just for organizing, uploading all the assignments and such, and then a common calendar, which then, you know, the schedule and everyone can just log right into their classrooms. Students have still been, the teachers prefer them to email their assignments to them rather than post it onto Teams. One of the limitations is you can't see as many people at one time on the screen. So a couple of the teachers have used Zoom, particularly our American Sign Language class, because you need to be watching everybody. And that has worked for them.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I can't imagine trying to teach ASL over Zoom. Heavens.
DSS has mostly been using Google Classroom because the kids have the Chromebook and they have their school email. So they're used to doing stuff on Google Drive. Again, getting them to click turn it in on Google Classroom has not been easy. Sometimes they're taking a picture of it on their phone and texting it to a teacher. But yeah, Google Classroom is kind of what we've been using with Zoom for lectures sometimes.
Looks like Libby was saying that's what they're using down there also.
Well, yeah, I was saying that. I was also telling my child to stop talking out loud about Minecraft. But I was just thinking, like, I have loved that the class of 2020, who is like the most tech savvy ever, they, for whatever reason, can't submit a lesson. I'm like, you guys, you're going to college. I don't, it's weird. So we've done a lot of that, like, turn it in. Just the last step, just you've done all this work. So you have pictures, like grainy pictures on cell phone, like it's so funky. Anyways, just wanted to put that out there. I feel like if I can do it, they could do it.
Yeah.
Without getting off the positive train, like this group, and I have 5 children, freshmen to 3rd grade, all doing online school. They have no tolerance for technology not to work 100% of the time perfectly. Like my own children sitting next to me doing work will quit. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Let alone street school kids, right? With all the other issues that come with poverty. But yeah, it's funny that they can't click turn it in when it says turn it in.
Agreed. My staff's been teasing each other and our students that maybe we should just move to TikTok because they're also good at that. Yeah.
Nick got us set up with Edmodo, which has been a pretty good resource for posting assignments. But again, turning them in, getting them turned in is not happening.
I'll be honest, we're in a pretty small town, so most of the kids can get to the school. So we have a plastic box with a drawer outside our front door, and most of our assignments got turned in there. Because they had the option to do it electronically, but that was just easier for most of them and their parents.
Yeah, recently I've been opening up the school on Mondays for like in-person one-on-one tutoring. I'm not supposed to have more than 4 kids in the building, so kids have been coming in working with teachers, so I work at the school on Monday and then from home Tuesday through Friday. But I've found that kids have asked to just get all their stuff printed out because they don't like doing it on the Chromebook. It's harder to do on the Chromebook, and they want everything on paper, which is interesting. So I was like, oh, we can be more flexible if we get everything online. But some of them have just asked for paper copies of stuff. So.
Did I see, I think I heard maybe somebody say they had a question. Was that you, Maya?
Yeah, that was me. I guess the question for Jonas, you said you were using the Google Classroom, and I have been trying to sign up for Google Classroom for probably the last 5 years, and they will not recognize us as a school, no matter what I do, to allow me to have the administrative rights. We are accredited through Advanced Ed, which is now Cognia. I've sent them so many documents, and they will not give me and allow us to be in as a school, so I can't connect. So I was
Is it
curious to
based
see
off your Gmail address? Fuller, you might know more than I do. Is it because we have like our emails are at denverstreetschool.org. I think that's how we got able to use Google Classroom. I'm not sure. Fuller, you might be able to answer that.
So our email, we are a .org. We're through the ministry. So it's fwa@fwmdc.org. So it's not a Gmail. We do have a Gmail that I tried to use too, and that didn't go either.
Huh.
So organizationally, we use Google's ed side, for lack of a better term. So we're denverstreetschool.org, but it is a Gmail account. So they host our Gmail. And that's how we're viewed by them as a school. So we have all their ed suite of things, but the free side, we don't have any of the paid features, I believe.
Interesting.
But I certainly would help walk through what I could help figure out. I administrate ours, but it's trial by fire and YouTube.
Yeah, we're with Microsoft Teams only because one of my board members is a customer service rep for Microsoft. I mean, like his accounts are things like the state of Alaska and Denver International Airport. So he knows what he's doing, and I just let him help me, and we do that.
We added, we're A3 license or A5 license through Microsoft, which is more what it costs per person, but we have access to it. We have not used it because a few years ago, went to Google Classroom. So
You shouldn't have to pay for it because it's free to nonprofits if you go through TechSoup.
TechSoup. Okay, I'll check into that.
Let me know if you have questions. I can always send them to my board member.
Yes.
I'd like more information on that.
Yeah, I'll definitely, Chris, Maya, I'll connect you guys via email after this.
Can I be on that one too? Because ours has to do with our website platform. It's Squarespace, and so we have like Office platforms for our Outlook email and all that stuff instead of Gmail. And so where I think I got stuck is where you have to go in and link the Google account through your website, and it just never would like authenticate. So yeah, I have the exact same problem, not for as many years, but just since I started trying about 3 months ago.
Yeah, I will.
That's super frustrating.
Kevin, I think you had to step away, but I was bragging on you guys for doing the Facebook Live. Like, I think you guys read books to your students on Facebook Live. I hop on every once in a while, and it's like, Mr. Dean's reading a book. So could you tell us a little bit about that? I know your school's a little bit younger than most of the high schools that are on this call. Is that right?
Yeah, we're pre-K through eighth grade. But we've used Facebook Live specifically for reading with the principal, something that I do with the kids. But within a couple of weeks of the shutdown, we transferred to StreamYard, which goes live on Facebook and YouTube. We had to go with the step above the free version to simulcast. But we run our weekly chapels through that, and we did our Race for Education online, a virtual race this year, so we utilized that platform, and it's super. I mean, I'm not, like I said, not tech savvy, and it's so easy to use. You really get a professional-ish production for people who don't know what they're doing. So it's been really great you pre-schedule, and you get the word out through social media, and then you can handle comments, all come into one location, whether it's from YouTube or Facebook, and you can throw those up on the screen, and there's so much functionality that it's really great. We just had a chapel this morning, and I was able to bring in guests for kind of an interview format, and so it's been really, really great. That's StreamYard is what we use.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I know this is always one of those like questions, but has anybody had any extreme successes or like best practices, things of wisdom regarding fundraising in this that they want to throw out there?
Well, I wouldn't say it's extreme, but I will say that I have found in the last 2 months, people are answering their phones. Used to be, I left lots of messages, sent lots of emails, got no response, had to keep trying and trying to get together with people. I have called so many people and had wonderful long chats with them. We did a 10-year campaign because that was going to be our big dinner in April this year. And we didn't have the dinner. So I did individual asks and also sent something out in the mail. And we ended up raising more money than we raised in our dinner in any year so far.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's very encouraging.
One of the things, we've had a few site visits that were scheduled from previous foundation requests that were scheduled by Zoom. And probably you guys have already thought of this, but I just hadn't thought to be prepared for this question, but I was glad I knew the answer. Was they asked if we were able to save money in any ways during this time. And so one of the things is we turned off all of our tech support, which we were paying like $50 a computer for tech support a month, which to me is just like crazy expensive, but it was a board decision. And so we're saving like $1,200 a month on that. And then we had just being able to tell them like the saved costs by like just turning off all the utilities and just being really frugal and letting them know kind of what areas we're trying to make cutbacks in. It seems like they've really responded to that in a way of like, maybe they can't fulfill our complete grant request, but they want to work with us to help us kind of weather the storm. So, and like there's been some disappointments of like groups that we thought we would always be able to count on that distance themselves for even other reasons other than this. And so it's been encouraging just to see how, at least in the Dallas community, some people have even reached out to say like, I know we helped you with operating, but do you have any additional needs right now? And so that's just been like grace upon grace of God. So yeah, but just in this morning we did our budget approval for the next year, and just trying to show the board ways that we're also trying to cut costs based on our actual expenses this past year, just to show everyone that we're trying to do what every other company and organization and homeowner is probably doing right now as well.
Absolutely. Megan, do you guys have any fundraising plan in place for all of this without like being able to do in-place dinners? And
yeah, we're actually meeting tomorrow with our some members of our special events committee that are on the board and the advisory council. We've got a Zoom meeting tomorrow at 2:00, and I was actually just sending out the information on that. But we've been brainstorming about things. We have 3 events in the year. We have our luncheon, which is our biggest fundraiser. We raise about 30% of our budget in that event. That's usually in October. So hopefully we'll be back and able to gather again, because that's a big event with about 300 people. But we're talking about other ways. Maybe we usually have tables of 10, and instead last year we had all of our tables sponsored before we opened the doors. So we thought we could reach out to our table sponsors from last year and ask them to host something in their backyard for groups of 10. And we usually have the event at the country club, but we could get boxed lunches from them, so they wouldn't have to, the hosts and hostesses would not have to actually have any out-of-pocket expenses or go to any trouble. But knowing that some of our folks still would not be comfortable with that, we're gathering even with groups of 10 maybe, I'm not sure. Who knows what the future holds, but just talking about all kind of things. I was talking with another committee member yesterday about what kind of events, what kind of places do we have around here that already have screens that we could gather? Could we get in the baseball field at our big baseball stadium and have a pre-recorded message from our ask and testimonies from our students on the baseball, the big, the Jumbotron? Could we, we've got we're in race country. We've got a motor speedway here. And we could, is there any way, we don't have any drive-ins. We even thought about that. The closest drive-in is probably 40 or 50 miles away, but could we find a drive-in theater and serve pizza and popcorn and Coke and have something on the screen? I mean, who knows? We got to do something that's different, that's going to, because everybody is going to be scrambling to fill those, to fulfill those fundraising events that were canceled from March going forward, and they're all going to fall in October, and that's when ours is. So, we have, like I said, we have a race, a a 5K race. This is our second year, Beat for the Street. And it was supposed to happen in April also. So Mike's a big runner. He's been working with that, trying to get that rescheduled. And we haven't gone virtual yet to anything. We hope we'll be able to gather. We hope that we'll be able to do that for all of our events going forward. But, you know, who knows? So we're just going to try to think outside the box and have the most creative, fun way to gather that we can.
One thing I'll just add to Megan's comments, and we talked about the social media piece, and I've kind of been back and forth. We're doing a food bag program every Wednesday, and so if the doorbell rings and I disappear, you know why I'm not on the screen. But just that social media piece and staying in touch with our stakeholders, donors, just to, even if it's sharing a story, something that happened during the year, or staying in really good touch with our upcoming graduates and their plans. We've tried to do some spotlights of those graduates and kind of get some feedback from them about their experience with the street school and then what their plans are. And just trying to make sure that we stay out there and stay relevant I think has been a big boom for us. And you know, as far as contributions go, like Megan said, we know come in the summer, fall, if things do loosen up a little bit, it's going to be kind of everyone competing with everyone else for limited dollars. So I think the best that we can do right now is just to make sure that folks still know the street school, and the street school is kind of in you know, their vernacular moving forward, and just showing images of our students and what they're doing and personal stories, and just trying to stay out there.
Okay.
So we
Chris had a really good idea that we've sent out a Google survey. It's the Google form. And we sent it to students. How's your experience? Parents, what can we do better if it is in fall? But he sent one out to donors. It's just, if we had an event in fall, would you attend? Would you be comfortable with X number of people? What can we expect from you? I don't know if you want to talk about that, Fuller, but I thought that was a good idea. Because each street school will be different based on your guys' state. But yeah.
Yeah, so it's going out this afternoon. We sent it out a week ago, but is at the bottom of an email. So I just let that sit to prove that people don't read to the bottom of the email. So that one, we had one person respond, but it's going out to a new group this evening. When I get some data in, I'll give it to Casey. Casey can share it with all of you. But I love your ingenuity, Megan, on that. But I think the real question will be is, what are people comfortable doing? Most of our donors fall into the they need to be careful range. So yeah, I'm a little nervous about what that looks like for events, but I think there are ways to do things different. I got invited to Seed fundraiser. I think it's called Seed something. That I think is based out of Denver. The guy lives in Chicago now, but for the last 2 weeks, they've been talking about exactly what was just talked about. How to do events that are now no longer in big groups, because that's just not going to be our reality in the near term. And one of them was exactly what you said, have other people host it at your home. So that's a great idea. They said do a virtual, they're testing it. One of them is getting ready to do it, but you do a virtual dinner. But everything shows up at the guy's house, right? So in the morning, a bottle of whatever shows up, and for dinner shows up, and 45 minutes later, dessert shows up, right? And so they're being taken care of. You're giving value that way. You're interacting with them through Zoom, which is not the most personal way to do things, but they're getting that personal touch on the back end, which is, you know, whatever caterer, whoever bringing food for you. So we're all in for, just as all my teachers, I said, you guys are all brand new teachers now. Welcome. Anybody who does fundraising, we're all now brand new fundraisers too. So.
That's encouraging to hear, though, that, like, I don't know, people are being more receptive to phone calls, or being, I don't know, generous through more direct asks. I mean, that's something that we've wrestled with a lot at the Denver Street School, is like, how do you say we need money without sounding desperate, but also like it's desperate. Like and I can see Sharon smiling because I know that you're obviously walking out a lot of that right now. So
yeah.
And
I would also say we need to not be apologetic, because yes, some people are struggling financially, but a lot of people aren't. And a lot of our donors aren't. In fact, I had one woman who I chatted with about whether she could give, and she said, yeah, if I get a stimulus check, I don't need it, I'm sending it to you. And then about a week later, she sent me a photo text of her stimulus check and said, you got lucky. And turned around and wrote the same number check to Crossroads. And I think there's a lot of people in that boat, despite the fact that there are also a lot of people who are really struggling.
Sure.
I will say that I have put into our database since March 13th when we left school, I have entered 30 or 36, either a combination of new donors or people that had not given before that were in our database. So people are giving. And, and some of those checks have been significant. I mean, significant for us. Like Mike mentioned, all of the social media is a huge, huge plus. He does a lot with Constant Contact and just with specific asks. Not being able, we knew that we were not going to get tuition, even though tuition is not a lot. We knew that with the students not coming into the building, chances are we would not collect tuition. So a simple ask that went out to help us with tuition and with a picture of our kids working from home on their computers, we covered it. So anyway, I think it's just people will give. And I know probably like the rest of you, they'd rather give to something. They'd rather buy a Chromebook. They'd rather cover the tuition than send money for operating funds. So, the right kind of ask will get the right kind of dollar.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like the idea of helping cover tuition because that ultimately is general operating funds. But
yeah,
I know that
I took my whole budget and broke it down and said, okay, this is my whole budget. This is the number of students. This is the number of classes per week, per year, per whatever. And I figured out that our one student in one class for one day costs $4.
Wow.
That's an easier sell. Lots of people can give me $16 and feel like they covered 4 classes.
Yeah, it's true. That's a great strategy, Barb.
Can I interject on that real quick? Because I know that our team, we're always looking for those big donors or, trying to target that population who can give those. And you need that. But I like that too, because there's a lot of people who are maybe in the 20-somethings and they would still love to give. And that smaller amount is still an opportunity, and that's the younger people who are like, well, I can't give $100 a month. Well, what if you had 50 people who gave that $16? That adds up. And that could be a piece where even through technology, I mean, I don't know how that works, but, I got friends sending me, what Cash App or whatever the apps are on there. And, we use PayPal. That's about it. But some people, they might give quicker through some updated means. And I'm saying that for our team, there may be a way to be able to look at opportunities to use technology and even think of like an extra branch for funding in addition to what we're already doing. I don't know what that is, but if we collaborate as an organization, then maybe we can pull together some strategies.
Yeah.
I get today we've got a donation through PayPal. I think it was through, I'm not sure exactly, can't remember, but it's a fella that gives us $8 a month. Well, that's his equivalent of, $8.88. That's his equivalent of $100 a year. So we can faithfully count on that $8 check every month. That doesn't cover a lot until now I realized it covers one child for 2 classes, but yeah, who knew?
There you go.
Yeah. The other thing, somebody mentioned PayPal. I don't know if you all know this, but I just recently found out that PayPal Giving Fund, if you sign up for that, it's a little bit separate from PayPal itself, but it has no fees. So I get 100% of the money through PayPal Giving Fund.
That's good to know.
That is great to know.
We also use PayPal, but 2 other things that have been helpful for us is setting up a way people can pay through Zelle, through their direct pay from their banks, and there's no fees and it's immediate. And then we just started using the Kindful platform a couple of years ago. We tried Salesforce for so long and other things that just did not work for us at our level of knowledge and skills, and so Kindful works well for us. And they've also been providing the free donor screening for the last 2 months, so that's just been helpful information that we otherwise probably wouldn't have spent money on. Yeah. And then I think, like, as people of faith too, like, we really have to remind our board members that, like, God supplies for what he orders, and just Philippians 2:13 has been a go-to for me, that he is at work to will and to accomplish his good pleasure. And one conversation that we've been having with some of our donors is, like, I called up one of our donors or I sent them pictures of some of the free food that we got from the North Texas Food Bank, and just said, I don't know if you guys support them or not, but the food that we're getting from them has been free this month, and it's just really helpful. So, you know, so in other words, like, we don't need you to give us additional money for food because the food bank is providing it. And then that is a group that ended up contacting us and asking us what our other needs were. But we're having to kind of find more ways to collaborate with some of the other organizations to do things that normally we probably would have tried to do ourselves. But this is probably the better strategy anyway. And I keep thinking, like, the Lord is pleased when we work together. You know, like, he gives us more than we can handle for a reason. And so it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of a different way of thinking about things, but it's more sustainable.
Absolutely. I want to be respectful of people's time. It's 1:04 right now, but if you guys want to take a couple minutes and maybe chat through, like, what is next fall to the best of any of our ability to plan anything these days. What are you guys thinking as far as remote learning, hybrid learning, in person? Like, what plans or practices do you guys have in the works?
I guess I'll go. So I am actually going to be working on what you just said, kind of some hybrid learning, where we can accommodate students who maybe don't want to come in school, still be able to provide some of the contact on a smaller scale, that they're still getting that direct contact in addition to the live streamed or the recorded lessons. Did I freeze? I don't think the screen's open. Oh, okay. In addition, I also wanted to mention that we actually had an increase in enrollment for next year, which is amazing. We're, you know, rural school. You wouldn't think we have new students, but because all the schools in the state closed down and we were one of the only ones that was still open, there were some families that, you know, took advantage of us being open, and we offered to help those students who had schoolwork from school but didn't know how to do it, so they could bring their schoolwork with them to school, and we would help them get through their lessons. They liked the school model, liked the staff, the families enjoyed it, and then we've now picked up, you know, additional families for next year. So that is certainly an opportunity for growth that we've seen.
I think as far as what school looked like, Maya's pretty much already given us the blueprint. Right? In Colorado, we're at 10 kids right now. No school's open, but we've been told we're at 10 kids in a classroom at this point. Everybody's got their fingers crossed that will go up. But for us, that's fine, right? We're 10 kids in a classroom anyways. Thermometer check, symptom checker. I'm building out a Google form that'll be kind of our symptom checker so that we can keep track every day of every kid that comes in the building. Where it gets tricky is what all those things start to look like, right? You have a positive case. You know, what is the building's policy? How many positive cases before you're back into distance learning? Of course, we're all somewhat at the mercy of our states. So we're Lakewood is our primary campuses. Jefferson County has been pretty strict here in Colorado. And so even sports teams are having no contact in Jefferson County, but if you live in Douglas County, which you cross the street, you can have contact. So I think there's a lot of pieces there to figure out, but we are planning on having school in the building right now. But I'm asking us to be prepared. Basically, staff's going to teach as if we are distance learning, right? We're going to teach Samaya. That's why Jonas was so interested in what you're doing, because we're going to teach as if we're remote learning, even if we have kids in the building. So it'll all be in Google Classroom for us. It'll all be recorded, hopefully, because we know that there are going to be kids who, one, are sick or their parents are sick, right? So there'll be kids that are not in our building who normally would be. Staff could get sick. Or at any given point, the state could say, you're going to finish out the rest of the calendar year. I have had people come to me and say, would you be willing to start school early? Like August 1, so that we could be off between Thanksgiving and Christmas. I don't know. I see heads shaking, so I'm not the only crazy person that's had that brought to my attention. I don't know if our kids would walk through that. Well, they would walk through the Thanksgiving to Christmas, no problem. I don't know if they'd come to school early, so that we're avoiding flu season. But yeah, I got a lot of thoughts on that. But I think that that's where we're headed, at least here in the Denver metro, probably even up to the Longmont area. I don't know, Barb.
Well, and I am hoping, and this is bigger than street schools, but I am hoping that this will finally be the impetus to get us all to year-round schools. Because we all know it's better for families, it's better for kids, and it's better for teachers. So I'm not sure who this current academic calendar is good for, except for farmers whose kids no longer work at the farm.
Summer camps.
Can I add
Well,
something?
but see, all the summer camps have been shut down, so now is the time to reboot and do this right. That's my little soapbox.
Yeah, I've taught on the year-round calendar. It's wonderful.
Nick, it looked like you wanted to jump in with something really quick.
Yeah, it was just an additional point. So right now, we're just same thing, thinking through 3 main scenarios, back to normal. We know what that looks like. Distance learning, we know what that looks like. And for us, it's trying to like fine tune what that looks like. And I like the ideas of maybe the print offs, because I just got a text from a student right now, hey, I want to drop out. Can I get someone to print stuff off? And I'm like, we're just not there right now. Right, but walking into it, we could have like a better plan. But then also, I actually heard this from the California governor, because this was maybe a few weeks ago. He was on the news, and they're debating like an A/B day, to limit the groups. So you may have like first and second period on Monday, Wednesday, third and fourth, Tuesday, Thursday, and then maybe you open up Friday for like tutoring or one-on-one scheduling, something like that. So that's something that doesn't even exist, and I don't even know what that would look like. But I love the idea that Maya mentioned, because I was already thinking, well, how do we broadcast and stream everything anyways in our regular program? How do we integrate that for those who are sick and are out for like a week, but then they missed everything, or utilizing the digital tools or virtual tools for makeups, make that more efficient and stuff like that. So I don't know what that A/B would look like, but I think if like everything's clear, I may lean towards that anyways as a principal, just because it limits everything. It limits the sanitation, the interactions, and all that stuff. And I don't know what it looks like for the teachers. It would just be an adjustment. And maybe like on those off days, their students would be logging into an assignment or doing homework, and then they come back in like with the flip model that was mentioned earlier.
Sure. And similar along those lines, we had talked at one point at Denver Street School of saying like, okay, maybe instead of having our kids take their 7 classes per quarter per semester like they normally have, maybe they take English and math and they do those more hours a day on a rotating basis to kind of give them the brain breaks that they need. And they just do that August through October. And then it's like, okay, you did your fall's worth of English and math. And then we get really creative and switch them into science and social studies and Bible. October through December, November, whatever that ends up looking like. So yeah, it's definitely a time of reimagination, but
yeah, if we had to go back to distance learning, we would not do 7 or 8 classes in a quarter. They have proven that is not successful the way to go, but I'm hoping we're not back in distance learning in that mode. Sorry, Tim.
Well, what we're doing here in Memphis is just like everybody else. We're trying to figure out, you know, how are we going to do this? How's this going to happen? What's it going to look like? And so we're still in the investigative mode of that, but we need to ramp up pretty quick for the coming year. But our main goal is to be able to provide distance learning, because we're anticipating that we're going to have kids that are going to be out a lot. We're anticipating that you never know when that surge is going to happen that they keep talking about, or if it will, but we want to be ahead of that curve rather than behind it like we are now. So we're nowhere near where we need to be. We're thinking about a lot of creative things. We utilize Odysseyware, which is already an online curriculum. I think it's Odysseyware too, right? It was bought by Edgenuity, I think. But anyway, we already utilize that, but we've also realized that our kids are not able to navigate Odysseyware on their own, and the expectation that they're going to get on there, they're going to do everything they need to do, and all this kind of stuff is really not reality for us. So we're trying to figure out, well, how do we still support them? So we're looking at all kinds of crazy things. One of the things that that's just an idea at this point is that we would still have some for our high school kids who are doing Odysseyware, have a situation where they were given their assignments and all of that weekly or even monthly. Everything was opened up for them, everything like that. But then there'd be 1 or 2 days a week where they would be on campus. But that on campus time is just a tutoring, taking their quizzes, stuff like that. And we built in kind of like a youth club type of atmosphere around that, where they come in and they do those things, and then we go off campus and do something with those kids. So it kind of provides an opportunity to do some relational stuff, which is what we're all about anyway. If it was just about education, we really don't need to exist, because there's a lot of great educators and education systems out there. What we're about is more life change and relationship and stuff like that. So how do you do that distance learning? Well, that's one of the ideas that we were thinking about doing is, you know, where they have work that they need to do, we're still going to hold them accountable. They're still going to show up once or twice a week. They're going to take their quizzes and tests. And then, man, we're getting together and we're going and doing some stuff, right? And now you're limited in what you can do right now. But we were just talking the other day that there are, you know, places where we can go. Mississippi, the riverfront downtown. We got a place here in town called the Concourse, which is really a cool indoor kind of like hangout type of thing. So we'd have to worry about group sizes, but our high school is so small. We think we could do a lot of neat stuff with them and still keep them accountable and do more of you know, that type of I guess you'd call that hybrid type of approach. For elementary grades, don't know if you guys are utilize what curriculum you're using and stuff like that. We don't have an online curriculum for elementary, but we do use heavily in the younger grades a Becca curriculum, and a Becca has just come out with a brand new system where all of their lessons, and I think this is, and Jessica's not in here, but I think K through 6 at least, maybe K through 12, I don't know, but they're already on video. They've already got them, and you can stream them. So you can stream the lessons that are already being taught through that curriculum. So yeah, Casey's just telling me that, you know, you wouldn't want to just stream, you wouldn't want your students streaming the people from Becca teaching the lessons, wonderful teachers, but they're not teaching to our particular demographic. No. And so our kids, you know, they talk really, really fast, and they use really, really high grade vocabulary and stuff. So in that, you would just have to customize it to your teachers and your kids. What I would do if I was a teacher is I would actually plan the lesson using the video, and then I would either teach that lesson like they are doing, or I would use Zoom. And what I would do is I would probably stop that, share my screen, stop that, have instruction time with them, and only do that in like 5-minute segments or 5 to 10 minute segments at the most. But anyway, y'all know how to do all that stuff. So But yeah, that another tool that we're looking at as far as platform is called Seesaw. Don't know if you guys are familiar with Seesaw. It's basically a way for you to interact, similar to Class Dojo. Don't know if you guys are familiar with that, right? But Seesaw is also another tool that we're looking at. It's a platform for interaction, much easier to interact with than what we've seen. That's students. You can give the students their assignments in real time. They can turn their assignments in real time. You get a notification. They do that by uploading. All they got to do is take a picture. So they do have to have some device, a tablet or something, and they can take a picture of that and just hit upload. You would get notification that they have finished an assignment. You can then approve the assignment. Once the assignment is approved, the parent actually gets a notification that their child's assignment has been approved, and they can actually see the assignment and the feedback that you've written on it. So it's all on one kind of thing. So something now it's paid. It costs money, so it's not extremely expensive, but it does cost money. So I said all that just say we don't have a clue.
But I mean, it's good to know that we're not alone in not having a clue, and the more resources and things that, because like the public school resources, God bless all of the public school systems here that are sharing things on Twitter, but I look at them some days and I'm like, this is great, but this isn't going to work for street school kids, or this is going to be so highly adaptable. So I appreciate you guys just taking time and sharing. I know. Oh, go ahead, Barb, before we start.
I have one more resource that I would love to share. I apologize for taking the time, but I just discovered this, and it's a different track. This is a resource for staff. It's called Careots, CAREOTS. It's a fairly new startup, but they access Gallup and Happify, which are well-being things. So there's a well-being assessment that teachers can do, staff can do, and all that sort of thing. There is a cost, but it's $35 per staff member for a year. And it gives them an app on their phone that they can do little activities that help improve their well-being, and it's targeted to their needs and interests, and there's just a bunch of resources. So worth a look. We just implemented that and announced it to our staff this week as a resource to say, hey, we care about you and we care about your well-being. So I thought others of you might be interested. That one of the founders of the company was a mentor for our kids in the Big Idea Project this spring. So we got to know him a little bit.
Very
so that was cool.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Barb. I will make a list and get all this out to you guys also if you have been multitasking or driving or whatnot. Fuller, if I could pick on you to close us in prayer, since you are the most comfortable person for me to pick on in this meeting.
One more thing, did everyone, I don't know if you all take advantage of any title funding through your school districts, but the CARES Act money that's available, some of the resources that you all mentioned that you're wanting to make use of, all would fall under the CARES Act that's been awarded to schools. So again, if you qualify for Title I resources, you've got availability for that. So even the things she just mentioned about the well-being, there's, you can use it for, mental health, support for those funds. So anything that you guys are thinking about implementing that you might want to use, all these great ideas, you might be able to make use of that funding.
That's
good point.
Thank you, Maya. Cool. Fuller, will you close us in prayer, and then we'll keep going about running around like headless chickens all over the nation. Fuller, did you freeze? Have I lost you forever? I'll pray. I don't know where Fuller went. Jesus, thank you that you are in charge. It is a lot to be a leader, to be an admin in this time. And yet, we just open our hands right now and give it all back to you. God, we just think of all of the schools all over the nation, those that have been able to join us and those who haven't. And just thank you for the vision that you've laid on all of their hearts. Thank you for the vision that you laid on Tom's heart to bring us all together so that we know that we're not alone with you, but Lord, that we can like see people on a screen and just know that there are more crazy people like us out there fighting for our kids. God, we lift up Sharon and Seattle Urban Academy, and just our hearts break along with hers. And our thank you that nothing that has been accomplished in that school will be taken away, and nothing that has been accomplished in any of these schools in any of this season can be taken away. So we just pray that these kids would come to know you. Pray that you would just give the teachers and administrators all over Street School Network the strength to continue to walk forward to the end of the school year, to be able to rest well through the summer. And to know what we're doing going forward. Give us vision, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you guys so much for taking the time to sit with us today. Also on the website, I'm creating a page where you guys can put job postings. I know that's unfortunately a thing that so many of us walk through as administrators. So if you have any open positions, if you have any newsletters that just are really like great stories of triumph or struggle or needs, I'm going to try to get a newsletter spot up, the job spot up, and then a throwback to the old ways of Street School Network, do a Street School Classified on the back end of the website. So as you guys are thinking and know of positions, feel free to send that to my Street School Network email, and I will get that up for you guys. So
awesome.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Case.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.